Hello, hello. Okay, so we are back with Hinds' feet on high places. It's been a whirlwind of a week or so, yeah, I kind of fell off the wagon reading, but we're going to start with chapter 11, and let's see how far we get. So, here we go. The last time we made the ascent of the precipice of injury. So, there coming toward them through a clearing in the trees was the shepherd himself. So, chapter 11, in the forests of danger and tribulation. With what joy they welcomed the shepherd as he sat down in their midst, and after cheerfully congratulating them on having surmounted the precipice, he laid his hands gently on the wounds which Much Afraid had received when she fell, and immediately they were healed. Then he began to speak to them about the way which lay ahead. You have now to go through the forests which clothe the sides of these mountains, almost up to the snow line. The way will be steep, but you will come to resting places here and there. These are the forests of danger and tribulation, and often the pine trees grow so tall and so closely together that the path may seem quite dark. Storms are very frequent up here on these slopes, but keep pressing forward, for remember that nothing can do you any real harm while you are following the path of my will. It did seem strange that even after safely surmounting so many difficulties in steep places, including the impassable precipice just below them, Much Afraid should remain so like her name. But so it was. No sooner did the shepherd pronounce the words danger and tribulation than she began to shake and tremble all over again. The forests of danger and tribulation? She repeated with a piteous quaver in her voice. Oh, shepherd, wherever will you lead me next? To the next stage on the way to the high places, he answered promptly, smiling at her as nicely as possible. I wonder if you will ever be able to get me there, groaned poor, foolish little Much Afraid. I wonder you continue to bother with me and don't give up the job altogether. It looks as though I never shall have anything but lame feet, and that even you won't be able to make them like Hinds' feet. She looked disconsolately at her feet as she spoke. Certainly at the moment they did look even more crooked than ever. I am not a man that I should lie, said the shepherd gravely. Look at me, Much Afraid. Do you believe that I will deceive you? Have I said, and shall I not do it? Or have I spoken, and shall I not make it good? Much Afraid trembled a little, partly at the tone of his voice, and partly because she was still much afraid by nature, and was already trying to picture what the forests of danger and tribulation would be like. That always had a disastrous effect upon her, but she answered penitently, No, I know that you are not a man who would lie to me. I know that you will make good on what you have said. Then, said the shepherd, speaking very gently again, I am going to lead you through danger and tribulation, Much Afraid. But you need not be the least bit afraid. for I shall be with you. If I lead you through the valley of the shadow, even you need not fear, for my rod and my staff will comfort you. Then he added, You shall not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. Though 1,000 fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, it shall not come nigh thee. For I will cover thee with my feathers, and under my wings thou shalt trust. Psalm 91, verses 4 through 7. The gentleness of his voice as he said these things was indescribable. Then, much afraid, knelt at his feet, built yet another altar, and said, Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Then, because she found that even as she spoke, her teeth were chattering with fright, and her hands had gone quite clammy, she looked up into his face and added, For thou art not a man, that thou shouldst lie, nor the Son of Man, that thou shouldst repent. Hast thou said, and shalt thou not do it? And hast thou spoken, and shalt thou not make it good? Then the shepherd smiled more comfortingly than before, laid both hands on her head, and said, Be strong, yea, be strong, and fear not. Then he continued, much afraid, Don't ever allow yourself to begin trying to picture what it will be like. Believe me, when you get to the places which you dread, you will find that they are as different as possible from what you have imagined. Just as was the case when you were actually ascending the precipice. I must warn you that I see your enemies lurking among the trees ahead. And if you ever let craven fear begin painting a picture on the screen of your imagination, you will walk with fear and trembling and agony where no fear is. Then, when he had said this, he picked up another stone from the place where she was kneeling and gave it to her to put with the other memorial stones. Then he went his way, and much afraid, and her companions started on the path which led up through the forest. Almost as soon as they had reached the trees, they saw the face of mean, sickly self-pity looking out from behind one of the trunks. He gabbled ever so quickly before he dodged back into hiding. I say, much afraid, this really is a bit too thick. I mean, whatever will he do next? Forcing a poor little lame, frightened creature like yourself to go through dangers which only brave, strong men ought to be expected to face? Really, your shepherd is almost more of a bully than craven fear himself. Hardly had he stopped before resentment put his head out and said crossly, There's absolutely no reason for it either, because there's another perfectly good path which skirts the forest altogether and brings you right up to the snow line without going anywhere near these unnecessary dangers. Everybody else goes that way, so why shouldn't you? Tell him you won't go this way, much afraid, and insist on being taken by the usual path. This way is for martyrs only. And you, my dear, don't fit into that picture at all. Then craven fear leered at her for a moment and said contemptuously, So you think you're going to become a little heroine, do you? And go singing through the forest of danger? What will you bet, Much Afraid, that you won't end up shrieking and screaming like a maniac, maimed for the rest of your life? Bitterness was next to speak and sneered from behind another tree. He would do this. It's just as I told you. After you've dutifully gone through one terrifying experience, he's always got something still worse lying ahead for you. Then Pride, who was still limping badly and seemed extra venomous as a result, said, "You know, he won't be able to rest content until he has put you to complete shame, because that's the way he produces that precious humility he's so crazy about. He'll humble you to the dust, Much Afraid, and leave you a groveling idiot in front of everyone." Much Afraid and her companions walked on without answering and without taking any notice. But, as before, Much Afraid discovered that she limped more painfully whenever she heard what they said. It was really terribly perplexing to know what to do. If she listened, she limped, and if she put her fingers in her ears, she couldn't accept the hands of her two guides, which meant that she stumbled and slipped. So they stopped for a moment or two and discussed the matter, and then Suffering opened the little first aid kit hanging at her girdle, took out some cotton, and firmly plugged the ears of Much Afraid. Although this was uncomfortable, it did seem to have the desired effect, at least temporarily, for when the 5 sulkers saw that they could not make her hear them, they soon tired of bawling at her and left her alone until another opportunity should occur for badgering her again. At first the forest did not really seem too dreadful. Perhaps it was that way up there on the mountains. The air was so fresh and strong that it made those who breathed it fresh and strong too. Also, the sun was still shining, and Much Afraid began to feel a sensation which was completely new to her. A thrill of excitement and, incredible as it seemed, of almost pleasurable adventure. Here she was, lame, Much Afraid, actually walking through the forest of danger and not really minding. This lasted for quite a time, and until huge black clouds gradually rolled over the sky and the sun went in. In the distance, thunder rolled and the woods became dark and very still. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning scorched across the sky, and somewhat ahead of them was a rending crash as a great forest tree fell to the earth. Then another, and another. Then the storm in all its fury was bursting around them, thunder rolling, lightning sizzling and crackling in every direction, until the whole forest seemed to be groaning and shaking and falling about them. The strangest thing was that though Much Afraid felt a shuddering thrill go through her at every crash, she was not really afraid. That is, she felt neither panic nor desire to run, nor even real dread, for she kept repeating to herself, "Though 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, it shall not come nigh thee. For I will cover thee with my feathers, and under my wings thou shalt trust." So throughout the whole storm she was filled with a strange and wonderful peace which she had never felt before, and walked between her two companions, saying to herself, "I shall not die, live and declare the works of the Lord. And I'm going to stop here for this evening, for right now. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and grant you his peace. Until next time, bye.